Well, hi there. I am shooting this little segment here on what's called a Lumix LX10. It's your medium-ish range point and shoot. Shoots 4K, slow motion, cool things like that, but it has no external audio. But it does have like a flip-up screen and stuff like that, so it's pretty cool. But the point of today is that I'm going to show you how to get, hopefully, some professional results off of a much more cheap camera, because I've been doing YouTube for roughly 8 to 9 years now, and I've been doing professional freelance videography and photography for around 5-ish years. And something that I kept running into when I started off on this was that I would look to see how I could get started doing video stuff. But I didn't have any money to work with it. I had to work a full-time job, and it usually went to things like bills or college, so I wanted to find out what I could do for really cheap. And all of these channels, the issue that I saw, all of these channels would be like, oh, how to achieve results for low or zero budget. And by the time you reach the end of the video, they've spent like $1,000 to $2,000 on video equipment. I'm like, you don't understand. I have no money. I have maybe $20, if I push it, $50. And that's what I want to be able to start making, are videos centered around that kind of budget. What you can do for that kind of budget. In this series that I'm going to be starting off, I'm assuming you have a couple things. First thing, I'm assuming you have a smartphone. It doesn't have to be the highest end smartphone. This is a Galaxy S7 that's broken. Just a smartphone. If you have one of those, golden. And I'm assuming you have a laptop. Any style of laptop. It doesn't have to be a power horse of a laptop. It can just be your average everyday laptop. So that's what this is about. Let's go ahead and start. I'm going to be seeing what I can do to make this camera, an Olympus Stylus, the 5010 model. It's in the description below. I've put links to everything that I'm going to list today in the description below. We're going to make this look as professional as you possibly can. Talk about crazy, we're on the other side now. So the first thing that you're gonna want to do is get a memory card. Well, okay, so the first thing you're gonna wanna do is get a camera, a cheap camera. All that it has to do, I would shoot for 1080. 4K is not that important to start off with. I promise you, it sounds impressive. It's not important. Almost all of my videos are shot in 1080, as well as the professional videos that I have done, unless they request 4K. 1080 is going to be your best bet. This one only shoots 720. I have never shot a video on this camera. I have no idea what it's going to do. I don't know what its capabilities are, but I'm pretty confident that I can make it look pretty good. You can get this camera for under $20. Really cheap. Next thing you're want to be able to get is an SD card. Now the SD card that I have here is a 32 gigabyte SanDisk. Someday this will focus. I promise you this is a SanDisk. I promise you this is... Hey. Alright, I'm putting up a picture of it. This is a 32 gigabyte SanDisk. You don't have to get that much. 16 gigabytes is going to be fine. Even less than that is going to be fine. 8 gigabytes is going to be fine. But they're really cheap. You can get, I think it's a 16 gigabyte one for like $5.50 off of Amazon. Next thing that you're going to want to be able to get is this type of tripod. It's really small, it's really cheap, it's under $5. But it also has some bendy legs, so if you are on an uneven surface or something, you can really kind of adjust. You can also get tripods like this thing. This is more of a microphone tripod, but you can get something like this. I don't know how cheap these are because I got this with a microphone. Panasonic cannot figure out focus, but I would suggest one of these, and suddenly there you go. You've already got your camera setup. Chances are your phone takes better video than this ever will, and you already have it with you. If you want me to be able to do a video on phone videography, let me know. I will do it, and I'll show you how to get really good results out of this. I'm gonna go ahead and show you kind of what you're working with. One of the issues with this that you'll run into is that you can't see the other screen, so I'm gonna just hope that I'm hitting this right, and we'll see. So this should be recording down here now, and as you can see, it doesn't look great. The light from overhead is really heavy. It's just kind of trash. Also, you can hear the audio's kind of messed up. We'll get to that later on in the video. For now, let's go ahead and take a look at what our video settings should be. All right, so this is our camera here, and what it will probably come on to begin with is this eye auto. And that's what most cameras will end up coming on, is eye auto. But what you're going to want to do to any camera is switch it into whatever programmable mode you can. So that would be the P. That's what P stands for, is program. So once you select that, now you start having a little bit more control over what's going on here. So what you're going to want to do, if you look down here, this is the flash. That doesn't matter for video. This doesn't matter for video. This doesn't matter for video. Never touch this. Don't ever touch those numbers that are out of focus. Never touch those. White balance, you can custom set, and later on, as you get more deep into video, you'll customize those later, but for now, just leave it at auto. ISO, same kind of situation, just go ahead and leave it where it's at. The smaller that number, the shallower depth of field is gonna have. So 2.8 is pretty good, so we'll just go ahead and keep that there. So now that we've got it in programmable mode, now we're set a little bit more from where we were before. So that is gonna be our first step for this, is getting your camera set up to the right deal. The white balance, the ISO, the shutter speed, all of that is pretty important. And now we're gonna start looking at lighting and levels and framing. Now framing is gonna be pretty important to separate yourself from a person who just picks up a camera and shoots, as opposed to somebody who kinda knows what they're doing. And in framing, there's something called the rule of thirds, and you've probably seen this, and it's the cross lines that you could technically play tic-tac-toe on if you were in the mood for, but it's the cross lines that show up over your camera screen, so to speak. So in framing, what you want to do is keep your eyes on the top third line, as close to it as possible. If you sit off to the side, be on the top corner lines. If you want to be on this side, top corner lines. Only do stylistic choices on the other thirds when you have a mindset for it. Don't just do it randomly. Always try to communicate with that. Otherwise, stick to the top third being the line that you keep your eyes close to. So now let's hop back over to this to see what kind of visuals we can kind of pull out of this guy. I'll show you how to get this camera into the right framing. Okay, do you see what our issue is here? It's not at the right level. You want it to be up closer to your eyes. So the easiest solution, since you do have this cheap little tripod, which is basically just allowing you to set your camera up and level it as best as possible, easiest solution is gonna be the tried and true method of books. Books are so handy in regards to getting your camera to the right level. So now, as you see, this is much more towards my eyes. Now this is at my eye level, so instead of it being pointed down at me and then tilted up, which looks bad. Nobody likes the selfie look, like when you open your camera and the first thing you see is you looking something similar to a narwhal. So try to get it up to eye level. So now that we have our pile of books and our cheap tripod, we're now able to do some framing. So let's go ahead and switch it all around, and I will show you what this looks like visually, and then we're gonna work on our lighting. Okay. Now that we have it set up here, a lot of people forget about this, but having a good background is one of the most important parts about your video. So for me, I'm fortunate. I have, my studio background. But for a lot of you, you won't have a studio background, so what you'll need to do is kind of make do with what you have. The important thing to do is have as much distance between you and your background as possible, because that allows there to be a bit of a blur behind it, and that automatically will make your YouTube video look a lot better. Having a shallow depth of field isn't necessarily always professional, but it is easier to do when you're first starting out. So I'm gonna go ahead and take a look to see what my framing is on this, and then we'll go into the lighting segment of that in just a second here. So I'm gonna go ahead and record, and I'm looking. I think this is actually pretty okay. As far as framing goes, I think my eyes are going to be pretty well on top. Once again, you can kind of see in the deal up there, I've got another screen kind of referencing it. If you don't have these extra screens, it's just going to take a few times of going up and checking and coming and sitting back down and going up and checking and so on and so forth to get it right. But once you get it right, it's pretty easy, and if you can get it set up to do it again and again and again in the same way, even better. So now that we've got kind of some framing set up with the correct height and on the thirds, let's start talking about light. First and foremost, you don't want to use your overhead lights, ever. Don't use your overhead lights. They look really trash. We'll go ahead and click off the overheads, and then we will go ahead and try opening up our soft light, our soft, natural sunlight, to be able to add as much as we can. All right, so now we have some good, clean, natural light. You can see how even in this video, I come across as more of a natural color because it is actually natural light. The roll off is a lot nicer because it's a softer, bigger light, and that always looks more flattering. And usually with windows, they're close to this height, which is the correct height that you need them to be. So now we're gonna go ahead and check to see what it looks like on our little camera to see if our results are anything to pay attention to. And if not, then this video is gonna go really poorly. So I'm gonna go ahead and record this because it should still all be framed. I'm hoping that I'm somewhere in the thirds. I think I am. But yeah, so hopefully if this auto exposure works right and everything else is working right, this should look a lot better than it did before. Alrighty, already it looks a lot more natural. As you can see here, the colors on this It's a cheap camera, like I said, but the colors on it are looking a lot better, and having the window off to the side is important. So as far as placement for lighting goes, it's more flattering for it to not be face on like this, but to have some contrast to your face like I have here. Try to have it at either a 45 or a 90-degree angle to the side of your face, because it adds a lot more contrast and shape to your face. If it's straight on, it looks kind of trashy, it's just straight on. And if it's right behind, then it kind of does this like shadow on the face, really blown out in the background. So try to keep it at this kind of angle like that, how it is with you now. So now that we've kind of got a rough video setup for it with framing, lighting, and everything like that, the biggest issue then is audio. So right now we've got audio coming from you, which is once again an onboard camera. It's not going to sound great. And now we've got audio coming from you, which should sound even worse technically. So once again, this audio issue is really crucial, and nobody tells you about that when they start off. They're always just like, ooh, get the nicest, biggest, brightest camera, and which is important, but it's not as important as some other things. Audio and lighting are your two most important things to be able to make your video look great. So now we're gonna go ahead and cover some audio real quick here. So with audio, I have a very simple, not expensive solution. You can get a cheap, very cheap lavalier microphone off of Amazon that works actually quite well. It's not going to be super professional quality. It's not going to be something like this guy, but it is going to offer you a better quality sound than your onboard microphone of your camera, and that's important. So what you're going to want to do is get one of these kind of things. It looks like this, very simple. It just wants to focus on my face. But it's got this specific type of headphone jack. It has to have those 3 rings that is adjusted to your phone. If it has 2 rings, it's going to be adjusted for a camera input, but more on that maybe in a different video. But after you get one of these ultra cheap ones, it usually comes with a couple little puff filters on the top, and it just clicks in to your shirt like so. And this is where the phone comes in for this, because you need to have a phone for audio recording. If you don't have a phone for audio recording, then it won't work super well. You'll need to figure out something else. This can also plug into a laptop though. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and pull up my audio recorder. I'm gonna switch over to this camera here so you can hear what I'm working with here. And then I'm gonna switch over to the audio that's on here so you can see that as well. All right, so now what you're gonna wanna do is add some sync lines. I usually clap 3 times, and in the editing software afterwards, this is how you line up your audio. So sync lines. So that'll create a very specific pattern on the audio for me to be able to sync with. So now we've got our video, we've got our audio, we've got our lighting, and we should be able to be set up to be able to give a decent looking video performance. It's not necessarily going to be the most brilliant, but we also spent $50 on it. And this is going to suffice for YouTube. It looks a little weird, but usually when you're first starting off on a YouTube channel, everything is going to look a little weird. You have to be pretty bare bones about it. After a bit, you might be able to start investing more, get a better camera, get a better tripod, get some lights, do things like that. And then after that, you're well on your way. But literally for under $50, you're able to get a video quality that looks pretty okay. I think it looks pretty okay. If you liked this video, then let me know. And if you would like to see how to edit all of this together for free, let me know. And that's something that I'll do. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe for more actually useful, actually low budget filmmaking, all the way up through some higher budget stuff as well. But that's kind of what this channel is going to be for you, and I hope to be able to see a lot of you in the future. All right, talk to you later, guys. Bye.